national level. This is why.
Okay, guys, so it's that part of the year where a lot of players are entering the portal. Now, it's not nearly as big a numbers as it is after the spring season, but there's a lot of guys going in the portal now, especially with all these recruiting changes. And I wanted to make sure you guys know all the information you need before maybe making that decision, or if you've already made that decision, so you can make the best decision about where you end up. And now, this is what I would say first. If your coaching staff and your school has basically told you you need to go in the portal, you're not going to be playing here, you're not going to be on the travel roster, it's not looking good for you for your future getting on the field, then listen, I get it. Going in the portal, that's probably the best option. But if you're a guy that's sitting there thinking, I don't know if I'm going to play this spring, you haven't been told that, but you're seeing how the lineups were looking in the fall and how the at-bats were going, and you didn't seem to get that many, I would say wait until after the spring semester. And we'll get into some of that in a second, but you never know what can happen in the spring. One, you have January and February up until the season starts to show out in front of the coaches again. Again, most decisions are made in that fall inter-squad timeline, but a lot of guys come on strong in January and early February, and all of a sudden they maybe earn a spot in the lineup, or they're kind of the next guy up. So if you haven't been told in your exit meetings, hey, you probably need to the portal, or it's not looking like you're going to play at all, I would not go in the portal in the fall, because one, way less spots, okay? Way less spots available. Because think about it, guys. Nobody's recruiting a bunch of portal guys over the winter. There may be, if all of a sudden with some injuries, or guys that came in just aren't looking great, so schools are looking for a couple guys or maybe a couple arms. But it's not the post-spring portal opening all summer where they're looking for 10 guys. That's just not the reality. Now, could things change? Maybe even right this season or in the coming seasons? Sure. But from what we've seen in the last 3 years, this is just not a very hot time to recruit a bunch of portal guys. And it makes sense. You have your guys that came in. You feel pretty good about most of them. You're not going to be doing a bunch of stuff in the portal at this time frame. So if you haven't been told you need to get in the portal, probably a good idea to wait. Now, here's the other reason why, and this is a big one for you guys that are already in the portal or thinking about it, is the 4-2-4 rule for transferring from a four-year school. So, guys, the most likely avenue you have if you are in the portal now, or if you're thinking about getting in the portal, is going to a JUCO. And that's fine. You're going to get at bats, you're going to get a lot of reps, but you cannot leave that JUCO if you transfer there until you get your associate's degree. Now, there's a few other things involved in this rule, but that's the main one. And so if you're transferring after and this is particularly for your freshmen that have just gotten on campus, if you're transferring after your freshman fall, you have one semester of classes under your belt. That means you're going to play this spring and probably have a full year left of credits needed to get to that associate's degree. So essentially what that's going to mean, guys, is you have to play not only this spring at the JUCO, but you have to play next season, fall and spring, at that junior college as well. And a lot of you guys who don't know this rule think, or maybe this is your thought process, I'm going to transfer to a JUCO, I'm going to put up big time numbers, and I can go somewhere else. Well, with the 4-2-4 rule, that's just not possible for you guys, especially of you freshmen that are transferring. So this is something to keep in mind if you are in the transfer portal and this is your freshman fall that you just ended. Think about this rule before making a decision. If you go to a D2 or a D3, etc., that rule is not going to apply. You're going to be able to transfer after the spring if you want to. Now, the reality also you guys need to understand is that if you weren't projected to get a lot of playing time this spring and you didn't perform very well in the fall, the likelihood that you're going to transfer to a school that all of a sudden you put up big time numbers, probably not as big. and doesn't mean it can't happen, but the focus needs to be on your development now and getting at bats. And so that's one reason JUCO is really good, that there's a lot of at bats to go around, but understand that this rule is going to impact the timing of when you can transfer out of that junior college, okay? And then third, guys, one of the things we need to think about when going in the portal is there's a likelihood that you don't land somewhere. Now, the reason for that, as I write in my scribble, is a lot like, there's less spots. So again, there's a lot of guys, and even in the summer during that portal session, that there's thousands of guys that are out there, and there's undoubtedly hundreds and probably thousands that end up not having a place to play because they think that, well, everyone's looking for portal guys, but they're looking for portal guys with track records. And so if you don't have a track record, if you're transferring after your freshman fall, and I've said this before, and I want to just make sure you guys understand this, even if there were schools out there who were recruiting you in high school, they thought you were a great player, all they have to go off now is that the school you're transferring from thought you were going to be really good, and then you either didn't perform very well, or they just, all of a sudden, you got to canvas and think, yeah, he's not the player we thought he was. So all these other schools that recruited you in high school, they're not just going to instantly be like, oh yeah, we loved him in high school, because now they know, well, he went to X school, and now he's in the portal. So either one, he just wasn't the player we thought he was, he performed terribly, maybe there was some issues off the field or academic issues. So all of a sudden, that's a big red flag for schools that maybe had been recruiting you in high school. And this is why my recommendation for most of you guys out there, especially the freshmen, don't just hit the portal right now. I know it makes everything in your mind's telling you, well, doesn't look like I'm going to be playing at all in the spring. Again, you have time to go in the portal in the summer. The likelihood that you transfer to an equivalent school or even close to an equivalent school in the winter and then get to play right away is going to be very low. The best course of action is you wait till after the spring season, you go play summer ball in a good collegiate league, put up numbers there, and all of a sudden you put up numbers in a collegiate league that's pretty highly respected with a wood bat. There's going to be some schools out there that are interested and are going to like you, and they're going to see that performance in the summer league, albeit in not quite as many at-bats as a regular season. They're going to see it as a little bit of a track record. So you're going to have an edge going into that fall at that next school because they're like, hey, you put up numbers with a wood bat in this collegiate league. You probably have a shoe-in, or you're at least the guy with an advantage to win a starting spot. So that's kind of my recommendation, guys. When you guys are thinking about the portal right now, there's so many guys that we're seeing going in the portal, way more than in years past and right now, post your fall schedule. And just want to make sure you guys have all the information out there so you can make an educated decision on what's best for your career. Again, if a coach is telling you you need to hit the portal, that's one thing. It makes sense. But if you haven't been told that and you're just kind of going off of a feeling of, there's an upperclassman in front of me, I'm probably not going to play that much. Yeah, sure, but the guy may get hurt. All of a sudden, you may show out really well in the early spring, and then you're a guy that can fill in and get some at-bats over the course of the season. Again, if you get 80 at-bats as a freshman, that's 80 more at-bats than anyone else that's coming in, and it gives you a little bit of a bump when competing for a spot next year. So make your decision with all this information, guys. Hope this helps. Any comments or questions you guys have, maybe even more in depth about the 4-2-4 rule, shoot me some comments. Again, you can look this up, find all the requirements. Again, I mentioned the associate's degree, but there's also some other stuff in there. So look this up, do some research yourself, and make the decision that's best for you. Thanks.